Welcome back to Hardball. Why did the United States engage in this war in Iraq? Well, we heard many reasons, from WMDs and fighting terrorism to spreading democracy, from the whole thing, the malarkey, the neoconservatives, everything. Well, today, John McCain cleared it up. He surprised a lot of us with this version. Now, everybody listen. No interpretation here. Just listen to the man who's going to be the Republican nominee for president, explaining the importance of energy independence and how it will allow us to not have to fight any more wars in the Middle East. Listen to his own words.
My friends, I will have an energy policy that we will be talking about, which will eliminate our dependence on oil from the Middle East, that will then prevent us from having ever to send our young men and women into conflict again in the Middle East.
This isn't me talking. So is this the war in Iraq, why we're fighting this thing? Todd Harris is a former spokesperson for John McCain who can help speak for him tonight. And Jennifer Palmieri is with the Center for American Progress. Todd, it's your floor.
I feel like this is my just desserts now.
No, whatever you want to say. I have nothing to ask you.
Look, people may not always agree with John McCain's view of why we're in Iraq, which is because he believes it's the central front in the war on terror. But they know why he thinks we're there. He's been very clear about this for years and years and years. Point number one. Point number two. Every foreign policy expert of both parties, Republican or Democrat, agrees that if we reduce our dependence on foreign oil, it will increase our security here at home. That's all he was talking about. He was talking about reducing dependence on foreign oil so we can avoid future conflicts down the road. It's well established why he thinks we're in Iraq.
We'll let Jennifer, we're going to let him say it again, by the way. You can do it now.
Right, but that's not what he said. I mean, because what's so interesting about what he said is that he left no other option. He said that the reason why we go to war in the Middle East is because of energy.
But that's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said never again will we have to do this because we're going to reduce under a McCain energy policy. We're going to reduce.
When have we done it before?
Well,
I'll get fight for oil before. Just tell me when he says never again. What's he mean? When was before?
Well, we'll have to ask Senator McCain. A lot of people think the '91 Gulf War had a lot to do with oil.
You mean when Jim Baker said jobs, jobs, jobs?
A lot of people thought that.
Secretary of State?
A lot of people thought that had a lot to do with oil.
Well, what do you think? What did John McCain think? That was for oil?
No, of course not. We're in Iraq because it's a central front. Because it's a central front on the war on terror. He's been clear on that for years and years and years.
Let's. Can we show this again? I want to be. Tell me when I'm ready in my ear. Let's take a look. Let's let Senator McCain, who is quite articulate.
Yes, he is.
Say what he thinks.
Oh, well,
My friends, I will have an energy policy that we will be talking about, which will eliminate our dependence on oil from the Middle East, that will then prevent us from having ever to send our young men and women into conflict again in the Middle East.
My friends, we will have an energy policy which will prevent us from ever having to send our young women into conflict again in the Middle East. In other words, if we have energy independence, we won't have to fight anymore in the Middle East. That's what he's saying. No.
You're parsing what he said. I hope that over the next several months that this election is about a debate on whether we should reduce our dependence on foreign oil, because John McCain says, yes, we should.
No. Should we stop fighting wars in the Middle East because we're doing it for oil is the question.
And he says, never again will we do something like that because we're going to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. He was very clear about that.
But he suggests that the only reason why we are fighting... That's what he says.
Jennifer,
even if he did, I'm just saying what he said here. But moreover, even if he didn't, when did we go to the Middle East?
He said that, but he didn't say that today. Let me ask you this: Alan Greenspan, the longtime Fed chairman, and I believe it's fair to call him a Republican, appointed by Republicans. He is a Republican. He said, wrote this in his book, which has sold a zillion copies. I am saddened that it is politically inconvenient to acknowledge what everyone knows: the Iraq War is largely about oil. Is Alan Greenspan wrong, or is he not telling the truth? Does he really believe it's about terrorism?
I don't know. I was never Alan Greenspan's spokesman.
Okay. You have a point defense here. You only defend John McCain. I think we've beat this horse dead yet. I think he'll have to explain this. I believe no matter what is said here, John McCain's going to have to explain that comment because I think it is an acknowledgement. My friend Michael Kinsley, the brilliant columnist, said years ago, in Washington, a gap is when you say what you believe. Okay, let's take a look. One more question. I'm going to ask you about a tough one. And I know we beat it to death here because it is the story of the week. The Reverend Jeremiah Wright took the floor of the National Press Club on Monday and gave a very well-reasoned speech, which didn't cause any trouble.
Right.
And then he took questions. Right. And in front of a very supportive crowd, went wild.
Right.
Is that going to go away before next Tuesday, what he said? The echoes of that.
I think the echoes are reverberating, but they're starting to die down. But I think on Tuesday you'll probably, you'll see what the impact of it was.
Is he got a bully pulpit still, this guy?
And, Obama's starting to remind me a bit of Captain Renault from Casablanca. He's like, I'm shocked to hear comments like this.
Say. If I were working the way you're working, if I were spokesman for the Republicans, I'd be saying 20 years in the pews, and he finally notices what the guy's talking about. Anyway, Todd Harris, it's always great. Jennifer Palmieri, you two guys, you could take over for this side. You could be over here. Up next,
but
Barack
we're not
Obama.
The number 2 most prominent.
We'll hear more about that.